Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Grace Srivas VANACARI. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Devotees, we thank you all for being here today. It's a new week, Monday, and also a new chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. And we're very much fortunate to have His Grace opening the week and opening the chapter with us. So, His Grace Srivas VANACARI, Hare Krishna, and we thank you for being here on Hare Krishna Africa platform, your own very home. And without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen, and then you take it over from here. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you are muted, please. Okay.
We can proceed.
Yes, please.
Narayana namaskritya narachaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat nashtapraya sabhadresu nityam bhagavatam sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhakti bhavati naistiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, entitled Remembrance of Lord Krishna. And today we are treating texts 1 and 2. Text 1 has no purport. So I will just read the Sanskrit and the translation. Then we go to text 2. So text 1 says, Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti Bhagavata Prishta Shatra Vartam Priyashrayam Praktik Vaktum Nachusheha Kantyat Samariteshwaraha. Translation. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura to speak on the messages of the dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord. Now we'll go to text 2. Ya pancha hayano matra pratar asaya yachitaha tanaichat rachayam yasya sa pariyam bala nilayaha. Ya pancha hayano matra pratar asaya yachitaha Tanaichat rachayam yasya saparyam bhala lilayaha. Ya panchayano matra pratat asaya yachitaha Tanaichat rachayam yasya saparyam bhala lilaya. Word for word translation. Yaha, one who. Pancha, 5. Hayanaha, years old. Matra, by his mother, Prata Asaya, for breakfast. Yachitaha called for that, na, not. I chat like, Rachayan playing, Yasia whose, Sapariam service, Balalilaya childhood. Translation. He was one who, even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. Purport. From his very birth, Uddhav was a natural devotee of Lord Krishna, or a Nitya Siddha, a liberated soul. From natural instinct, he used to serve Lord Krishna. Even in his childhood, he used to play with dolls in the form of Krishna. He would serve the dolls by dressing, feeding, and worshiping them. And thus, he was constantly absorbed in the play of transcendental realization. These are the signs of an eternally liberated soul. An eternally liberated soul is a devotee of the Lord who never forgets him. Human life is meant for reviving one's eternal relationship with the Lord. And all religious injunctions are meant for awakening this dormant instinct of the living entity. The sooner this awakening is brought about, the quicker the mission of human life is fulfilled. In a good family of devotees, the child gets the opportunity to serve the Lord in many ways. A soul who is already advanced in devotional service has the opportunity to take birth in such an enlightened family. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 6.41. Suchinam srimatim gehe yoga brasto bijayate. Even the fallen devotee gets the opportunity to take his birth in the family of a well-situated Brahmana or in a rich, well-to-do mercantile family. In both these families, there is a good opportunity to revive one's sense of God consciousness automatically, because particularly in these families, the worship of Lord Krishna is regularly performed, and the child gets the opportunity to imitate the process of worship called Archana. The Pancharatika formula for training persons in devotional service is temple worship, whereby the neophytes get the opportunity to learn devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Parikshit also used to play with Krishna dolls in his childhood. In India, the children in good families are still given dolls of the Lord, like Rama and Krishna, and sometimes the demigods, so that they may develop the aptitude of service to the Lord. By the grace of the Lord, we were given the same opportunity by our parents, and the beginning of our life was based on this principle. Om Gyana Timiridasya Gyanan Gyanashalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Bitam Tam Sanjivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Bitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Asri Tatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvise Sashunyavadi Pasachade Satarini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratvize Namaha Nityanando Vantutendo Ruvasuda Pranavalabha Janavir Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavam Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gora Kalevaraha Advaitam Harinadvaita Racharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Sham Advaita Acharya Shraye Panchadattamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanitraya Namaste Pankajagraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Madirgatima Sarvaswa Padam Bujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divya Vindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Radnatgara Simhastanastau Srila Govinda Devo Pristyalivi Sevya Manosmarami Shri Mamra Sarasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venu Swanai Gopi Gopinata Sri Estunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Brishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Devi Krishnamai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarvam Lakshmi Mait Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translations again. Text 1 says, Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhav was asked by Vidura to speak on the messages of the dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhav was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord. And text 2 says, he was one who, even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum lagayete grim yat kripatamahan vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandalakaram Vyaptaina Characharam Tatpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So everyone is welcome to today's discussion from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Remembering Krishna. So in these two verses, we can understand the importance of devotional service. When Vidura met Uddhav, Vidura is a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and Uddhava is also a great devotee of Krishna. Of course, between the two of them, Uddhava is considered superior because Uddhava was very, very intimate with Krishna. So intimate that when Krishna was about to depart from this world, he made sure that Uddhava was present. And somehow or the other, because Krishna wanted Maitreya Muni to render some service, he also arranged for him to be present. Uddhava Maitreya wasn't a pure devotee. Maitreya was a philosopher. He was very learned, but he was not on the platform of a Sudabhakata. But Krishna had a plan for him. Krishna wanted to use him. So he drew him closer at the time of his departure from this material world. So somehow or the other, Maitreya Muni and Uddhava were present when Krishna was leaving the material world. And Krishna gave specific instructions to Uddhava in the presence of Maitreya Muni. In fact, it is said, the acharyas say, that just by being present, when Krishna was speaking with his very, very dear devotee, Uddhava, Maitreya also became purified. Maitreya also became exalted. Maitreya was conscripted into the inner circle of devotees. According to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are two classes of devotees, Sajitaya and Vijitaya. Sajitaya are the very, very intimate devotees. They understand the Lord perfectly. They can perceive the Lord's desires, and they act according to the Lord's desires. The Vijitayas, they are also devotees. They are also endeavoring to please the Lord, but they are not so intimate with the Lord. And so they cannot perceive the desires of the Lord. They wait for the instructions, for the directions of the Lord. So Maitreya, before meeting the Lord, he was in the category of Vijitaya Bhaktas. And Uddhava was in the category of Sajitaya Bhaktas. So Lord Krishna, he left a message for Vidura at the time of leaving this world. And the message was heard by both Uddhava and Maitreya. Vidura was on pilgrimage, touring all holy places. And before Krishna departed, he instructed Uddhava to go to Badrikashrama in the Himalayas, Badarikashrama in the Himalayas, and associate with the devotees of Naranarayan Rishi. So Uddhava was on his way to the Himalayas, Badarikashrama, when he met Vidura on the banks of the Yamuna. So when they met, Uddhava mentioned to Vidura the disappearance of Krishna. And now Vidura is asking Uddhava he should speak on the messages of the dearest Lord. Because some messages were left by the Supreme Personality of God, Sri Krishna, with Uddhav in the presence of Maitreya. And Vidura wanted to hear those messages. So he's asking Uddhav, please speak those messages that were left by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But due to Uddhav's intense love for the Supreme Lord, his intense affection for the Supreme Lord, he could not speak. He was going through excessive anxiety, remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so he was unable to speak. And Shukadeva Goswami is telling us that this attitude of Uddhav has been with him since childhood. It is not just now that Vidura has met him that he's experiencing such intense love for Krishna. Even in his childhood, at a tender age of 5 years, he was always very much absorbed in the service of the Lord, that when he was called by his mother for breakfast, he did not wish to go for breakfast. He was relishing his absorption. He was relishing his interaction with the Lord, so much so that he did not want to trade that bliss, that joy, that experience with anything else. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, Uddhava was a natural devotee of Lord Krishna, a Nitya Siddha, a liberated soul. So that is how exalted the position of Uddhava is. Uddhava is so exalted that he was always a constant companion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uddhava was such a great devotee of the highest caliber that when Krishna wanted a messenger to go to Vrindavan to meet the gopis, to pacify the gopis who were lamenting for Krishna's absence in Vrindavan, Krishna had no one else to send to Vrindavan except Uddhava. Of course, it is said that Uddhava looked exactly like Krishna. He was the same age with Krishna. He had the same bodily features with Krishna, almost the same color with Krishna. In fact, it is said sometimes the Yadavas, the citizens of Dwaraka, they would mistook Uddhava for Krishna. It's only after a close look, then they will see, oh, this is Uddhava. He was such a devotee in his heart. And because of his great devotional service, the Lord reflected in his body. The Lord reflected in his life. The Lord reflected in his activities. That is the caliber of a devotee that Uddhava was. So we can say that to become a devotee of the Lord is the highest achievement a living entity can experience, can acquire, can achieve in this material world. Because in the spiritual world, everyone is naturally a devotee. Everyone is naturally serving Krishna. Everyone is naturally inclined to give Krishna pleasure. But in the material world, it is not so. In the material world, we have 4 classes of men. We have the karmis, we have the jnanis, we have the yogis, and then we have the bhaktas. The karmists, they try to be happy within the material world. And for that happiness, they don't mind changing bodies, life after life. They are working very hard, just enjoy the facilities of the body. And so they work very hard in order to achieve that. And even when they achieve that, death will not allow them to stay forever to enjoy the facilities they have worked hard to accumulate. They are kicked out of the body, but because they have no better destination, they have no better understanding that there is a superior place than here, they are given another material body. Whether it is a body in the heavenly planet, it's a material body. Whether it is a body in the hellish planet, it is a material body. Whether it is a body in the middle planetary system, it's a material body. These are bodies that are subject to birth, to disease, to old age, and to death. And once you have a body within this material creation, you have to experience this. So the karmics, their life is not so glorious. One's life cannot be glorious in the midst of all these problems. One's life cannot be so wonderful when you are surrounded by all these calamities of birth, disease, old age, and death. So for sure, the materialists, the karmists, they cannot be in a better position so those who are a bit enlightened, they become jnanis. The position of the jnani is that he wants to be free from all these encumbrances, all these material encumbrances of birth, disease, old age, and death. The jnani wants to be free from them. So his aspiration, his desire is moksha, liberation. But because they have no proper information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are unable to gain the liberation. Because liberation is only possible when one glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, in the Gaga Rishi Samhita, it is mentioned, Jivam labdvapi ya Krishnasya kirtananam na kirtayet. Labdwapi moksha nishre sheni sa naro hati durmatihi. Durmatihi means a fool. One may aspire for liberation. One may endeavor for liberation. One may perform so much austerities for liberation. One may engage in all kinds of activities for liberation. But if one does not engage his tongue, jivam ladwapi ya krishnam, kritananam na kritanayat. If one does not glorify, one does not chant the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ladwapi moksha nishrini. Even if one comes close to the ladder of liberation, if one comes close to the staircase that leads to liberation, sa narohati durmatihi, such a fool who has refused to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he cannot climb the staircase in order to achieve liberation. So in other words, the Gyanis, even though they are frustrated by the four material encumbrances of birth, death, disease, and old age, and they're endeavoring to get out of this situation, but because they fail to utilize their tongue in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, kirtaniya na kirtayat, they refuse to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They refuse to chant the names and the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a fool cannot attain liberation. Then we have the yogis. The yogis are said to be superior to the Gyanis. But as yogis, they want mystical opulence. They want to display the opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Lord Krishna indicates in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that there are two types of mystical perfections. There are the primary mystical perfections, and there are the secondary mystical perfections. The primary mystical perfections, they take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the secondary mystical perfections, which are 10 in number, can be acquired by any living entity who is in the mode of goodness. Anybody who is in the mode of goodness can acquire, develop these mystical perfections. So the yogis, they are in the mode of goodness. They cultivate Suddha Sattva, the mode of goodness, in order to cultivate or develop these 10 secondary perfections by which they can display, by which they can control others. They can control the laws of the universe. They can surpass the laws of nature. That is what these 10 secondary mystical perfections can do. But one is still deprived of the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the greatest gift, is the greatest experience, is the greatest joy the living entity can be exposed to. So even if the yogis, they are able to develop these 10 secondary mystical perfections, still they have not yet achieved the highest goal, and which is the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is the devotees, it is the bhaktas who are able to achieve this. They are so blessed. The devotees are so blessed to gain the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as we can see in the life of Uddhava, even at the age of 5, he is so absorbed in that relationship, that relationship, that he is not ready to even go for breakfast. He is not ready to trade that experience, that blissful experience, with anything else. So, becoming a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very important. And that is what this human form of life is actually meant for. The scripture tells us, Yada kadachit jivadma samsaram nija karmambir nana yonesu anishoyam purushim gatim avrajet. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death again and again in different species because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living entity, by some good fortune, may happen to become a human being. This human birth is really obtained. Manasho deho dulabam. Manasho deho dulabam. De hinam shana bangura. Dulabam means very rare. Very rare. In fact, if you just consider the population of living entities, then we can see the rarity of the human form. If you talk of microbes, bacteria, viruses, you can't count them. They are unlimited. Then if you come to insects, like ants, you can't count them. Mosquitoes, flies, you can't count them. Then you come up a little bit, maybe fishes, maybe reptiles, you cannot count them. Then you come to birds, you cannot count them. Even we have not even mentioned grasses and trees, you can't count them. You cannot. We have been taking population of human beings. Have you heard before that there is population of animals, population of trees, population of insects, population of viruses? You can't count them. Only human beings can be counted because our number is very small. Human beings can be counted, but you cannot count even lower animals like cats, dogs, cows, goats, sheep. You can't count them. They are unlimited. There are many. And so that points to the fact that the human form is very rare. But even though this form is very rare, it is very delicate. Dehinam shana bangura. Shana bangura means something that can easily be destroyed, easily be lost. And that is a fact. Today, we are walking our 2 legs. We are speaking somehow, talking somehow, boasting somehow. But the next moment, when the live air is no more there, that great personality, that intelligent personality, that wealthy personality, that powerful personality, he is nothing but a corpse. And whatever happens to him, he cannot resist. And that is our experience. I was reading one article this morning, and something just struck me when I read the information. It says that the number of people who are dead are more than the number of people who are alive. True or false? You can
I'll
answer.
say true.
It's true.
Yes.
That the number of people who are dead are more than the number of people who are alive. I was reflecting on it. And it's just so true. It's just so true. But those who are alive, they are thinking they will not die. Their probability is 100%. The probability of death is 100%. No one is going to escape, except for some few people, very few people. There is a description of Tukram Prabhu from Maharashtra. Tukram Prabhu was a Vital Dev Bhakta. Vital Dev, that's the Krishna form in Maharashtra. Vital Dev. And this Tukram, he was born in a very poor family. And at a very early age, both his parents, they passed away, his mother and father. And so he has to struggle with life to grow up. And then he entered into Grihastha life. He got married. And then he had a daughter with a wife. But then there was a very severe famine in their area. No rain for many years. And there was no food. And so both his wife and his daughter, they died out of famine, out of hunger. And Tukram was left alone. His life has no meaning to him. He lost his father and mother at a very early age. Now, as a young man, he has lost his wife and his only daughter, and was left alone. So he decided, okay, material wealth is not friendly to me. There is no hope of succeeding in material life. Everything has been taken away from me. Let me just become a fully engaged devotee of Vital Dev. So Tukram, in order to intensify his devotion, he left the town and he went to a nearby hill. And there he was chanting the names of Vital Dev day and night, even without food, without sleep. He did that for 15 days. And Lord Vital appeared to Tukram and gave him instructions. He said, I appreciate your devotional service. I appreciate your dedication. I appreciate your sacrifices. But you should go back to the city and preach. That will please me the most. So he had to terminate his austerities and go back to the village and began to preach very, very passionately because he was empowered by Lord Vital Dev. So as he was preaching and preaching and preaching, anybody he would meet, he would speak about Lord Vital Dev. It is mentioned in his biography that because of his intense preaching, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared before him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared before him and told Tukram that in this age, the names that you should chant is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually initiated Tukram into the Mahamantra. And so from that moment onwards, Tukram chanted the holy name day and night, non-stop, and was influencing everybody to chant the holy names of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And so it is said that Tukram, when it was time for him to leave, in the presence of everyone, they saw Tukram rising from the ground with his body into the air, and he disappeared. Tukram did not lie down to give up his physical body. He did not grow sick, grow weak, and give up his body. He actually went back home in the same self body. His body had become spiritually surcharged, transformed, that Tukram went back home in the same self body. So there are few people like this who can escape death. But 99.99999% of all living entities, they must taste death. So even though this body is such a wonderful gift, such an asset, a spiritual asset, if one does not take advantage of this body, it can be lost at any moment. That is a fact. That is a reality. Therefore, one who takes to the process of Krishna consciousness is very fortunate. Prayo mumuksha swaste sham ke chanaiva dijotamaha mumukshunam sahasreshu kaschit mukyate siddhyati. O best of the Brahmanas, out of many persons who follow the religious principles, only few desire liberation from the material world. And among many thousands of who desire liberation, one may actually achieve liberation, giving up material attachment to society, to friendship, to love, to country, to home, to wife, to children. And among many of such liberated persons, one who can understand the true meaning of liberation, which means to engage in devotional service, is very, very rare. So that is how rare the devotee of the Lord is. And in fact, in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the rarity of the devotee is described by Lord Shiva. Muktanam apishidanam narayana parayana sudurlabha prashantatma koteshu api mahamuni. Oh, great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may become a devotee of Lord Narayan, Narayana Parayana. Such devotees are fully peaceful, but they are also extremely rare. Unless one is freed from the death in the heart, the dead within the core of the heart, how can one be peaceful? Niskala Ashanta, Niskala Ashanta, Krishna Bhakta Shanta, Nishkala Ashanta. Only the devotee of Krishna, he is peaceful. All others are always unpeaceful. So the Narayana Parayanas, the devotees of the Lord, are very peaceful, because they have realized, they have come in touch with that wonderful supreme personality of Godhead, who is the ocean of peace, who is the ocean of love, who is the ocean of bliss, who is the ocean of everything else. Suvrata Sumuka Shukshma, Shugusho Shukada Suhirit, Manohara Jito Krodo, Vira Dapi Viradana. Krishna is the ocean of everything. He's the ocean of happiness, Shukada. He's the ocean of beauty. He's the ocean of love. He's the ocean of everything. And one who has been able to achieve that association of Krishna, he also becomes peaceful. He also becomes like Krishna. Madhvacharya, the great Acharya of South India, has this to say: Nava Kotyastu Devanam Rishaya Sapta Kotayaha Narayana Sarve Yetke Chittat Parayana. There are 99 million demigods and 70 million sages who are all called Narayanas, devotees of Lord Narayan. But amongst them, only few of them are called Narayana Parayanas. They are the most dear devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narayanaya Devaya Risha Adyastat Parayana. Brahmadya Kechanaiva Su Siddha Yoga Sukam Labam. The difference between the Siddhas and the Narayana Parayanas is that the direct devotees are called Narayana Parayanas, whereas those who perform various types of mystic yoga are called Siddhas. So the Narayana Parayanas, they are the topmost devotees of the Lord. They are superior to all classes of mystics, superior to any classes of practices. The Narayana Parayanas are superior. And that is where Uddhava belongs. Actually, Sanatana Goswami, in his Brihad Bhagavatamritam, classified devotees into 4. He says there are devotees that are described as Adikrita Dasas. Adikrita Dasas means those who are qualified servants. Qualified servants. And these are the demigods. Not Brahma, not Shiva, not Indra. They are servants. They are qualified by their activities. The devas and the devis, the goddesses and the gods, they are under this category of devotional service. They are devotees, but they are materialistic devotees. They want to serve the Lord, but they also want to enjoy some facilities. So they come under the topic. Sanatana Goswami classifies them under Adikrita Dasas. Then we have the Ashrita Dasas, sheltered devotees. Sheltered devotees, those who are taking shelter of the Lord. They are the Sharanagatas and the Sevanishtas. Sharanagatas means those who are surrendered to Krishna. Sevanitas means those who are devoted. They want to serve the Lord. Then Sanatana Goswami mentions the 3rd category, Parishada Dasas. Parishada Dasas, they are the constant, trustworthy companions of the Lord. And this is where Uddhava belongs. Uddhava, Daruka, Shrutadev, and the rest of them. They belong to this category of devotees. They are constant, trustworthy companions of the Lord, and they're always in the Lord at all times. Of course, we have the fourth category. They are called Anugata Dasas. Anugata Dasas, these are obedient followers of the Supreme Lord, and they are fully compliant with the desire of the Lord. Whatever the Lord wants them to do, they have no objection. So Uddhava belongs to the third category, Parishada Dasas, a constant companion, a trustworthy companion, a very reliable companion of the Lord. So my soul, that Krishna personally told Uddhava, na tata me priyatama atma yoni na shankaraha na cha sanskarasanos nasir naivatma chayata bhavam. Krishna is telling Uddhava that, my dear Uddhava, neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor Lord Shankarashan, nor the goddess of fortune, nor even my own very self is dear to me as you are dear to me. So Uddhava is such a special devotee, such a dear devotee. Krishna is telling him that Lord Brahma is not so dear to him, Lord Shiva is not so dear to him, even Lord Sankarshan is not so dear to him, even the goddess of fortune is not so dear to him, even his own self is not very dear to himself, like how Uddhava is very dear to him. So when one becomes a Narayana Parayana, when one becomes a dear devotee of Krishna, such a devotee occupies a very important place in the heart of the Lord. Akinchana dantasya santasya samachetasaha maya santushta manasha sarva shuka maya dishaha. One who does not desire anything within this world, who has achieved peace by controlling his senses, whose consciousness is equal in all conditions, and whose mind is completely satisfied in me, finds only happiness wherever he goes. So this is what it means to be a devotee. Wherever a devotee goes, in all circumstances, a devotee is satisfied. So Uddhava is so deep in his realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that when he was asked to deliver the messages he had received from Lord Krishna, he could not speak. He was going through emotions, intense emotions, remembering the Lord, that it was very hard for him to speak. And this is the height of spiritual realization. When one is in love with Krishna, that his material senses become inert. They don't act anymore because he's completely absorbed in the glories of the Lord. And that is the position we should all aspire. Thank you very much. I would like to end here. If there are any comments or questions, you're welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Somehow or other, every single time you speak, especially on this platform, you create pleasant problems. And the problem is that we develop so much taste for Krishna, and we would like to feed more on the taste, but we're oftentimes constricted by time factor. So that is what I meant by the pleasant problem.
Problems.
Yes, because so many things have been said that are so beautiful, and we would like to probe more, but there isn't much time for each and every one. And so I will stop talking, taking lots of time, and open the forum for people, for devotees to ask questions or share their realizations from this transcendental Krishna Katha. So devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations, you may want to ask or share, please do not hesitate. Use the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak. Kusha Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, mighty Kusha.
Yes,
Happy-
man. Nice to see
happy
your
to
lotus
see you.
face and big tila.
Nice to see you. Are you in your beard or you have taken off the beard?
Of course, I have my beard like Adwaita Chaya. I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
You mentioned that wherever a devotee goes, is happy.
Yes.
But that is in which position of devotional service, devotional level, because devotees are really not that happy around the world, around the universes. Even Indra was not happy. Why he became very envious of devotees, tried to kill them in the Govardhan. Devotees, many people are not happy, even the demigods. So why are they not happy? Are they not devotees enough?
Yes. Thank you for the question. And I know you know the answer.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, back to my Bible student. You should know the answer. But on behalf of others, sometimes we ask questions. Anyway, so thank you for the question. Yes. There are different kinds of unhappiness that a devotee can experience. We can just categorize them into two. There are spiritual unhappiness and material unhappiness. If our unhappiness is based on sense gratification, if it is based on pleasing our senses, then that happiness or that unhappiness is material and there is no benefit. So Indra, for instance, his unhappiness is material. Indra is a Sakama Bhakta. He is not a pure devotee. He wants to enjoy the material nature at the same time he wants to serve the Supreme Lord. So sometimes he encounters material problems like preventing Prithu Maharaj from performing the 100-horse sacrifices because he was thinking, I am the only person who should perform the 100-horse sacrifices. No one else should compete with me. That is material. It is called Shatakrato. Shatakrato means that the person who performs 100-horse sacrifices. So he wanted that title alone, nobody else. So when Prithu Maharaj was performing his 100-horse sacrifices, Indra did so many nasty things just to prevent Prithu Maharaj from completing the 100-horse sacrifices. In fact, he frustrated Prithu Maharaj that he could not perform the 100-horse sacrifice. He performed 99, and the 100-horse, Indra stole the horse. He disguised himself as a sannyasi. He disguised himself in so many different ways, and he initiated so many upper sampradayas just because he did not want Prithu Maharaj to equal him in glory. So why wouldn't he be unhappy? A devotee, and this Kanchana devotee does not obstruct others from rendering devotional service. And this Kanchana devotee, he encourages others. He praises others. He is full of joy to see others making progress. That is a devotee. And for such a devotee, he is always happy because he wants to see everyone become a devotee of Krishna. He wants to see everyone serving Krishna. He wants to see everyone doing something wonderful for Krishna. But if we allow material desires to interfere with our devotional service, then we may experience a misery, which is material. A devotee may also experience misery, which is spiritual. A devotee's anxiety is to give Krishna consciousness to others. And for that anxiety, he may be unhappy. In fact, it is said to. And Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi. Paradukha dukhi means he is unhappy to see others unhappy. And is happy to see others happy. When people are taken to Krishna consciousness, the Vaishnava is so happy, so gladdened, seeing people becoming devotees. And then when he sees them not becoming devotees, he is very miserable. So if one is miserable because he is wishing good for others, he wants to see others become devotees, he wants to help others become devotees, and the opportunity is not there, or the chances are not there, or the people are not responding to that, he might feel some anxiety, he might feel unhappiness because he's trying to help and they're not recognizing his help. That is spiritual anxiety. It doesn't mean that the living entity cannot experience anxiety. You can experience material anxiety, and we can also experience spiritual anxiety. Actually, Srila Prabhupada defined this. He told his devotees that when I say there is no anxiety, it does not mean there is no anxiety in Krishna consciousness. When he says there is no unhappiness, that does not mean that there is no unhappiness in Krishna consciousness. A devotee can take up very difficult tasks to spread Krishna consciousness, and he may experience a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties. But such difficulties and challenges and unhappiness is blissful because it is connected to the service of the Lord. So a devotee may be unhappy because he feels he's not doing enough preaching. He feels he's not doing enough book distribution to connect many souls to Krishna. He feels he's not satisfying his guru enough. He's not satisfying Krishna enough. So he's unhappy. But such unhappiness is glorious because it's connected with the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if our anxiety of our misery is connected to the body and connected to the senses, then that is material. I don't know whether I've answered your question.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the question and the beautiful answer. Anyone else with something to ask or share? Prabhuji, you had indicated that Uddhava was very much alike, up to the point that people oftentimes mistook him for Krishna. So that logically tells me that Uddhava also had a spiritual body because Krishna never grew more than a 16-year-old boy. And so if Uddhava looked very much like Krishna up to the point that people always mistook him for Krishna, that means he must have a spiritual body. And my question then is, how did Uddhava leave this planet?
Well, yeah, Uddhava had a spiritual body for sure. Anyone who is associating with Krishna very closely, he automatically becomes a Nitya Mukta, a liberated person. His body becomes transformed. Yes. So Uddhava actually became a grass in Vrindavan. He became a grass. when Uddhava went to Vrindavan, when Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan to pacify the gopis for the separation, the feelings of separation from Krishna, Uddhava was thinking, of course, in Dwaraka, he was a very topmost servant of the Lord. He was a very exalted personality. So Uddhava was thinking, he's the best of devotees. But when he went to Vrindavan and saw the state of the gopis and the Brajavasis in general, Uddhava realized that his devotion cannot be matched with the devotion of the Brajavasis, especially the gopis. Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj describes that when Uddhava went to Vrindavan, he only knew of one river, the Yamuna River. But when he got to Vrindavan, he saw there were two rivers. So Uddhava was wondering, where from this second river? And what is the name of this second river? Because I only know Yamuna. And then when he inquired, he found out that the second river was the tears of the Brajavasis. The Brajavasis, they have been crying day and night in the absence of Krishna, that their tears had formed a river. So Uddhava could understand that these devotees, they are better than me. They are superior to me. They are more dearer to Krishna than me. I better become their servant. So he thought, what is the best way to get the mercy of these devotees? So Uddhava, he decided to take the form of a piece of grass near the Govardhan. There is a place called Uddhav Charit on the Parikrama route, and there is an Uddhava Kund. So Uddhava is still there right now. When Krishna disappeared, it is said that Kalendi, one of the queens of Krishna, he was less affected by Krishna's absence. The rest of the queens, they were always lamenting about the disappearance of their beloved husband. But Kalendi was always joyful. So everybody observed that Kalendi was not affected by Krishna's disappearance. So the queens, they approached Kalendi and said, "Dear queen, fellow queen, tell us your secret. Why is it that you are not feeling so much pain and separation from our beloved husband, Lord Krishna? We are all lamenting and you seem to be joyful. Please reveal the secret to us." And Kalendi said, "My secret is hearing Krishna Katha. If you hear Krishna Katha, all these miseries will be gone. If you hear Krishna Katha, you will be so joyful. You will feel the presence of Krishna immediately." And they said, "But how can we hear Krishna Katha? Who is there to give us Krishna Katha?" And Kalendi said, "Well, if you go to Govardhan, Uddhava, who was Krishna's close associate, he knows everything about Krishna. He can give you Krishna Katha." So the queens were very eager. How do we go? So it is said that Parikshit Maharaj arranged for the queens to go to Govardhan. And with a very powerful kirtan at Uddhav Kund, Uddhav Charita, strong kirtan with all the queens of Krishna, Uddhava could not hide himself as a blade of grass. Uddhava immediately appeared and said, "My dear queens, what can I do for you?" And they said, "We have come here to hear the glories of the Lord from you. Please tell us." And so after Uddhava had joined the kirtan for some time, then he sat everybody down and he poured the nectarian pastimes of Krishna. He poured everything to the hearings of the queens. And as soon as the queens, they heard from Uddhava, their lamentation ceased. So it is said that Uddhava is still living in Vrindavan. He is not gone. He is living in the form of a blade of grass. And any devotee who wants to have darshan of Uddhava can do that. Of course, that does not mean that Uddhava is not the spiritual world. You see, the devotees of the Lord, they are so empowered by the Lord, they can have double forms. So even though Uddhava is a blade of grass in Vrindavan, but Uddhava is also with Krishna in the spiritual world. That is an amazing form, the amazing nature of the devotees, because Krishna empowers his devotees to also expand. Like when Krishna went to Mithila with the sages, Krishna expanded himself and the sages also expanded themselves into two groups. And then one group went to see the king of Mithila, Mahulaswa, and one group went to see the poor Brahmana, Shrutadeva. And each of them was thinking, "Oh, I am so dear to Krishna. Just see, Krishna has come to my house." But Krishna expanded himself along with his devotees, and one party went to Mahulaswa's palace, and one party went to Shrutadeva's palace, and each of them entertained the Lord and his entourage in a very beautiful way, and they enjoyed Krishna's association like anything. So even though Uddhava is present here on this planet in Vrindavan, Uddhava is also present with the Lord in the spiritual sky. So Uddhava has not actually left. He's still here with us. He's still giving his association in Vrindavan. He's still relishing his association in Vrindavan. And the idea is that when the gopis, when they come to pick flowers, when they walk on the grass, then the dust of their lotus feet will fall on this grass. So Uddhava wants to be in Vrindavan so that he can take the dust from the lotus feet of Krishna's dear devotees.
Thank you so much for sharing this.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I have another question, but we'll go to Kusha Prabhu, who has a hand up. But before we even go to Kusha, what I'm learning from the response to my question that you just shared so beautifully is that Uddhava, when he went to Vrindavan, he realized that he had to learn from the gopis.
Exactly.
The gopis are more superior bhaktas and bhaktins than he himself, and they knew Krishna more intimately than he did.
Yes.
At this latter point, we're seeing that the gopis are actually being referred to go back to Uddhava to go and learn from him. And so sometimes, as devotees, we always want to speak. We do not want to hear others. But if we may learn from this encounter, even the gopis, who Uddhava considered to know better than him and went to study under them, they are now going back to Uddhava to hear about Krishna from him, which is very interesting. Kusha Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Yes, Prabhu Krishna. My question is on the Uddhava becoming a grass.
Yeah.
Krishna promised that devotional service will protect one from the most dangerous form of life, like taking birth below human form.
Yeah.
So if Uddhava took birth as a grass, does it mean that Krishna failed him? Because the promise also say we won't take birth again below human form. So a pure
Amen.
devotee becoming a grass, I see it as a failure. And Krishna not also keeping his promise to protect the devotee from lower form of life. So how do we
And
understand this?
yes, actually, taking birth in Vrindavan is a very exalted position. Uddhava becoming a grass in Vrindavan is not an ordinary situation. As I said, one form of Uddhava is with Krishna in the spiritual world, and another form is here as a grass. In Vrindavan, he's rendering service. In Vrindavan, he's associating with the gopis. In Vrindavan, he's giving Krishna Katha to qualified candidates. So even though he might have accepted a lower species of life, but we should understand that every living entity in Vrindavan is very dear to Krishna. Every living entity in Vrindavan is considered as a perfected being. Even the grasses, even the trees, even the animals, the birds, the monkeys, the dogs, the hogs, the beggars. Srila Prabhupada says, any living entity we see in Vrindavan, we should pay obeisances to them because they are very intimately related to Krishna. So Uddhava, that body he has taken as a grass, does not decrease his position as a devotee. He is rendering service in that form and is giving his darshan to qualified devotees and is speaking Krishna Katha to those qualified devotees. So he's also rendering some beautiful service, only in a lower form. But all forms of life in Vrindavan are very special. They cannot be compared to ordinary forms of life outside of Vrindavan. So even in that form, Uddhava is enjoying his spiritual activities.
Yes, Maharaj, but Prabhupada gave a lecture about sannyasis falling down. He said they become
Yes.
monkeys in Vrindavan as a form of punishment. So
Yes.
if becoming a monkey is a form of punishment, how does every living entity in Vrindavan be considered as elevated and we should pay obeisances?
Well, that is true. People who go to Vrindavan to engage in sinful activities, they take lower forms, like monkeys and hogs and dogs. But Srila Prabhupada also says, even though they have taken such low forms, but we should understand that just for one life, they would rectify their problem and they'll go back home. So that punishment, so to speak, is actually non-punishment. It's just to give them an opportunity to purify their existence as monkeys or as dogs or as hogs by living in Vrindavan for that life alone, and then they go back home, back to Godhead. So if you are given a form, that will ultimately lead you back home, back to Godhead. We cannot consider such a form less important because one is sure of going back home, back to Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada emphatically said that when the sannyasis become monkeys in Vrindavan, or some devotees become hogs or dogs in Vrindavan, that is just for one life. They become purified by that form, and in their next life, they become eligible to enter the spiritual world. So it may look like a punishment, but it's actually a process of purification that allows them to quickly go back home, back to Godhead. So it's a blessing in disguise.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
The
Thank
man
you,
has
sir.
finally emerged with his wonderful beard.
Yes,
Advaita Acharya's beard.
Is Advaita Acharya.
Incarnation.
Actually, I read some time ago when
The
one
video is up, Sadev.
one devotee left his body. Guru Govinda Maharaj said that the devotee had taken birth in Vaikuntha as a cow.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So
Uh,
the form of life you get in Vrindavan is glorious, very
yes.
glorious.
Yeah. And Gurudev also prayed to take birth in Vaikuntha as a stone.
Ah, and that's all.
Yes. And
Wow.
I was shocked, but of course later on I understood that taking form of any sort in the spiritual world is
Yeah,
naturally to
that's
serve
true.
capacity, and you can assume whatever form you want to assume later on or whenever. Just like you talked about Udava, the
Yeah,
priest went there and he had to manifest in his real form.
yeah.
Actually, I read this about 4 days ago where Sri Prabhupada was speaking like that in Vaikuntha, one may take so-called lower forms, but they are not limited by that form. They just assume that form just to serve Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's true. That's very true.
Arichakra Prabhu, please you may unmute.
And Govinda also.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Hare Chakra Prabhu. Nice to see
All
you.
glories to you, all glories to
All glories to
Gurudev, all
Guru
glories to
Dev, Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, and all the wonderful Vaishnavas here.
I thank you for your class. When you were speaking, you were mentioning how real devotees become very happy when they have, when they see others become devotees.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I don't see why that one is very special, because in every walk of life, people become happy when they see people join them. Christians will be happy when somebody becomes a Christian. Muslims become happy when somebody becomes a Muslim. Even thieves become happy when someone becomes a thief. And there is a saying in the Akan language that even the ghost, they enjoy when they have company.
I
So
see.
what is so special about it?
Yes, thank you for your question. What is so special about seeing others becoming devotees, and the fact that every group, every class of beings, they're happy when people join them. Yes, that's true. So the difference is that the devotees, I think, what is his name? Kapila Dev in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam mentions Prashagam. What is the verse? Something Samvito, Virya Samvido. The translation is that in the association of devotees, devotional service is enhanced. In the association of devotees, one's faith is strengthened. In the association of devotees, one can hear the glories of the Lord, and one's devotional service is enhanced. So the association of devotees facilitates the realization of Krishna, facilitates the joy of Krishna consciousness. And so that happiness cannot be compared with the happiness other groups of living entities may experience. The Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions that there are different classes of happiness. There is Jadananda. Jadananda means pleasure from the senses. There is Brahmananda. Brahmananda means pleasure from the Brahman realization. There is Atmananda. Atmananda means pleasure from the super soul, the yogis. And there is Premananda. Premananda means pleasure from love of Godhead. And so the intensity increases. The Jadanandas is just ordinary relationship, ordinary pleasure, which is very limited. The material senses, they cannot go beyond a certain limit. So even if you have so much pleasure to experience, your senses can only take to a certain degree. For instance, if you are given the best meal, you cannot eat more than your capacity, the capacity of your stomach. If you try, you become miserable. If because the food is very tasty, prashadam is so tasty, and you want to eat and eat and eat and eat, you end up becoming miserable. And so is it with all the other senses. If you try to go beyond the capacity of the material senses, you will simply invite misery. So the material senses are limited. So also, Brahmananda, the Gyanis, they try to enjoy Brahmananda, but that is compared to the water contained in the hoof print of a calf, as compared to the Saga, the great ocean. So again, comparatively, the Brahmananda pleasure is not as great as that of the Atmanandas, those who are relishing joy from the Supersoul. And those who are relishing joy from the Supersoul, their pleasure is not so expansive like those who are experiencing Premananda. So yes, each group will certainly experience some joy when people join them. Whether they're drunkards, whether they're thieves, whether they're Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, atheists, whatever, they will feel happy when they have new people joining them. But their joy is limited. But for the devotees, their joy is unlimited. Krishna consciousness is unlimited. And the joy experience in Krishna consciousness is unlimited. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would discuss all night with Ramananda Raya. 10 days, 10 nights. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Raya would meet at sunset, and they would discuss Krishna consciousness throughout the night. As soon as the day breaks, they will separate. And when the night comes, again, they come together. Similarly, when he was in Mayapur, Navadvip, in SRIVAS Angam, in the house of SRIVAS, they would have nocturnal kirtans all night. They would never sleep. And they would experience unlimited bliss, unlimited joy. When he was in Puri also, all night Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not sleep. He would engage Ramananda Raya, he would engage Swarup Damodar, he would engage Govinda Prabhu, and all night he wants them to read about the pastimes of the gopis. He wanted to discuss Krishna Katha, and he was always floating in the joy of Krishna consciousness. So we can see that the intensity of the bliss of Krishna consciousness is incomparable. So there may be some pleasure in the different categories of people, groups, but the pleasure that one experiences as a devotee or in a devotee association is unlimited. And so that makes it superior to all other forms of pleasure that the other groups may also experience. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
So, Shri Govinda Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Yeah, thank you. Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Gurudev, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to you.
I said mine also. I'm happy to see you behind your chariot.
I'm always happy to see you. And thank you very, very much for this wonderful presentation as always. Thank you very much. I'm a little curious. I'm a little curious about Uddhava. Krishna was telling the deep love that he has for Uddhava, that even the goddess of fortune, the gopis, he mentioned many names, personalities that cannot be compared to the kind of love that he has for Uddhava, and even including himself.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious that what did Uddhava do? What did he do that is so extraordinary, beyond what the gopis has already done, that they have become the topmost of all his devotees? So I'm a little curious. I would like to know, what did he do that is so special that set him aside as the dearest lover of his devotees? Because we know that the gopis are the topmost, and we know Srimati Radharani is Krishna himself. And so, what did he do?
Well, I think though the goddess of fortune is mentioned, actually, it mentions the goddess of fortune. It does not mention the gopis. It says the goddess of fortune. Let me see the verse. Natata me priyatama atma yoni na shankaraha na cha sankrashano na sri. Sri means goddess of fortune. Nayavatma chayata bhavam. So, it says, my dear Uddhava, neither Lord Brahma, nor Shiva, nor Sankrashan, the goddess of fortune, nor indeed my own self are dear to me as you are. So the gopis are not mentioned here because the gopis, they remain their position, nobody can challenge. They remain the topmost devotees of the Lord. And but Uddhava is considered superior to all these mentioned here, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankrashan, the goddess of fortune, and even the Lord himself. His body, his self is not so dear to him as Uddhava is dear to him. So your question is, what is it that Uddhava has done that makes him so dear to the Lord? We can say that Uddhava rendered so many special services. Uddhava was a childhood friend of Krishna, and they used to do things together as children. And then Uddhava became the Prime Minister of Krishna, Prime Minister of Dwaraka, or Chief Minister of Dwaraka. He was advisor of Krishna. Of course, Krishna does not need any advice, but he made Uddhava his chief advisor, his chief minister. And then it is said that when Krishna was about to leave, Uddhava told Krishna that he wanted to go with him. Uddhava actually requested Krishna that he should take him along. But Krishna said no. Krishna said, you have to stay back in this world to give your association to others. He asked him to go to Badrikashrama to give his association to the devotees of Naranarayan Rishi. And also, he's taking the form of this grass in Vrindavan. So it is said that instead of Uddhava going back home with Krishna, he carried out Krishna's instructions. Krishna wanted him to stay back in this material world to give his association. So we can say because he obediently carried out Krishna's instructions, he was always such a devotee who was always ready to carry out Krishna's instructions. And so he becomes dear to the Lord. This is what I can say, though we can research. If you read the Sandarbhas, Jiva Goswami Sandarbhas, certainly we may glean some information why Uddhava is such a special devotee. In fact, I can just look up something right away to see what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says about Uddhava. Why Krishna is making such a statement. I can just check it out quickly. Okay. So here it says that Uddhava is a Kinchana devotee of the Lord. Shrimadvacharya cites from Vedic literature that example that a gentleman sometimes neglects his own interests and that of his children to give charity to a poor beggar. The Lord gives preference to a helpless devotee who depends completely on his mercy. The only way to obtain the Lord's mercy is through his causeless love. And the Lord is most lovingly inclined towards those devotees who are most dependent on him. Just as an ordinary mother or father worry more about their helpless children than about those who are self-sufficient. Thus, even if one lacks any material qualification, one should simply depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any other interests, and surely one will achieve the highest perfection of life. So here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti is saying that because Uddhava is dependent on the Lord, he is dependent on the Lord, and that is why he received that special mercy, causeless mercy of the Lord. We can read the Sandarbhas to Jiva Goswami may also have his own tika, his own explanation. And similarly, other acharyas like Baladev Vidyabhushan, he might also have his own realization. There are different acharyas, they have their own perception, their own, bhav, and they go into their meditation and they see why Krishna gives such a special place to Uddhava. So when we read different acharyas, we can come to understand why Uddhava places such as, Krishna places Uddhava on such a pedestal, such an important platform to be superior to all these devotees mentioned in this verse. So we can do some little bit of research to see what are the reasons why Krishna is mentioning Uddhava to be so dear. But Certainly. He followed Krishna's instructions. Certainly. He depended on Krishna's directions, Krishna's mercy. Certainly. And those things made Krishna to describe him as such a devotee. So we can also follow that example. We should follow Krishna's instruction. We should depend on Krishna. And we can also come to the standard of devotional service of Sri Uddhava.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving the opportunity to say something about Uddhava, pure devotee. We hope Uddhava will bless us with his mercy so that we can become attempting devotees, trying devotees.
Well, Prabhuji, I have a last question, if you may be able to take one more question.
Okay.
I have one last question, but this question is a 3D question. It is a question which is 3-dimensional.
Okay. Let's try.
And because it's all around the same thing. One is you shared very important and beautiful pastimes in the narrations from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Yeah.
And my first question is why this information was not shared by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay.
When did Maharaj Parikshit actually shared this information with her mother, Uttara? If Maharaj Parikshit, as we understood, was cursed to die in 7 days, and it is said that for all the 7 days, he sat and listened to the Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami. Then at what point did Maharaj Parikshit, share this knowledge with his mother? And the last part of the question is, why was this very important information kept unknown and not revealed for 4,500 years until Sanatana Goswami came and revealed it?
Well, thank you for your very intriguing question or questions. The queens of Dwaraka, when Krishna left, they were in anxiety. And as a result, Parikshit Maharaj has to organize to send them to Govardhan to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Uddhava. So therefore, it means that when Parikshit heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami, that was not the first time. Because he was with the queens of Krishna at Govardhan when Uddhava appeared and spoke to them. So it means that he had some knowledge about Srimad Bhagavatam, he had some knowledge about Krishna when Uddhava spoke about Krishna. And so it means that Parikshit spoke to his mother even before the curse. Because as soon as the curse came, he renounced his kingdom. And then he went to the banks of the Yamuna, of the Ganges, and he sat there for 7 days, preparing to die. And he never came back from there. As soon as Shukadeva Goswami finished speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, Taskar, the snake bird, appeared and bit him and set his fire on flames. So there is no opportunity for him to come back to speak to his mother. It means that he spoke to the mother before the curse. And this is possible because he was among the audience at Govardhan when Uddhava spoke the glories of the Lord to the queens. And so it means Parikshit had Srimad Bhagavatam on 2 occasions, one from Uddhava and the other from Shukadeva. And so it was possible for him to speak to his mother before the curse. Now, why this knowledge is kept for 4,500 years until Sanatana Goswami reveals some of this information. It's also interesting. You know, the Lord, he empowers different devotees in different ways. He empowers Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami in a very special way. The Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions how Rupa was empowered by Lord Chaitanya. Vrindavaniyam rasa kili vartam kalena luptam nija shaktim otaha sancharya rupe vyatanoti punanaha prabhu vidau prak evalok shristim. Before the creation of this cosmic manifestation, the Lord enlightened the heart of Brahma with the details of creation and manifested the Vedic knowledge within the core of the heart of Brahma. In exactly the same way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being anxious to revive Vrindavan's pastimes of Lord Krishna, impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan, activities almost lost to memory. In this way, he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. And then somewhere it is said that Rupaya Kripaya Krishna Bhaktiras Sanataya Kripaya Krishna Tattva. That by the mercy of Rupa Goswami, we are able to experience the taste of rasa. And by the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, we are able to understand Krishna Tattva, the truth about Krishna. In other words, these devotees were so empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that something that had been lost was brought to bear within their heart, within their minds, so they can share with the world. In fact, the Vrindavan that we have today, the pastimes, the leelas of Krishna that we are hearing today, were all given to Rupa Goswami by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His heart was a charge with this knowledge. And so all the holy places that we have today in Vrindavan are as a result of the empowerment Rupa Goswami received from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, the knowledge like this we are receiving is by the empowerment of Sanatana Goswami by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So knowledge which were lost due to the passage of time were brought back to memory by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And so we can only say we are grateful to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for making this knowledge available through his devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can you imagine if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not empowered Rupa Goswami to rediscover Vrindavan? The Vrindavan we have today is a rediscovered Vrindavan by Rupa Goswami, which is coming from the empowerment by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, the knowledge we are receiving from Sanatana Goswami is an empowerment from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that has made it possible. So that is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kantanchana smriti yasmin duskaram sukaram bhavet. That whatever is so difficult to achieve, simply by remembering Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it becomes easy to attain. And whatever is very easy to attain, if we forget Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it becomes very difficult to attain. Also, Rupa Goswami, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami also makes a point. Pangum lagayete shailam mukam avatayet chrutim yat kripa tam aham vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami is saying, Pangum lagayete shailam, that by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even the lame can climb mountains. The lame can climb mountains. Mukam avatayet chrutim, and the fool, Mukha, the fool can become a great orator only by the mercy. Yat kripatam ahanvande, only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram, by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not Sri Chaitanya, everything is possible. So this knowledge and the manifestation of Vrindavan we have today are due to the empowerment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who descended in Kali Yuga to facilitate our spiritual progress. He brought the holy name and he empowered devotees like Rupa Sanatana to furnish us with that knowledge that we need to make progress in Krishna consciousness. So that is his mercy. I hope this answers your question. It's the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a costless mercy. We don't really deserve it, but Mahaprabhu is so merciful. He makes it available.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I think there was one question which was not like really touched, but it was touched in one sense.
Okay.
Why Vyasa did
not include it.
Yes, but
Yes.
I think you explained that also, and I'm recollecting something in that line. Somebody asked Srila Prabhupada some time ago, and Srila Prabhupada said the Goswamis could have done everything, but they left some things for him to do.
That's right.
And so that kind of answers my other question. Why Vyasa? So Thank you so much for the beautiful answers and the beautiful class in its entirety generally. I think we've gone past our time. It's more than 2 hours, and we're going to humbly request the devotees to kindly unmute. We cannot thank the devotees enough for spending this much time here, but it is kind of addictive. Krishna Katha is addictive, so I'm sure devotees may have wanted to leave, but they still have to stay to listen and to hear. So we thank you all devotees, and we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant the loudest Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI, for this wonderful day. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama,
Disconfunded Church of Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Krishna Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.